Hi, everybody. We got a very special episode of Am I the Asshole? We're just doing an extra episode because, why not? There's nothing going on, and I've got a very special guest for you today. We've been Twitter friends for years. Welcome to the show, Carlos Aguilar, right?
That's right. That's not a half bad butchering. I actually say it Aguilar. In the right context, you might hear me go for the triple Lindy, which is the Aguilar. It kind of depends on the context. That's as far as I'll go because that's about all the Spanish I know, just rolling my R. Like I don't know any actually vocabulary words. It's gotten me this far. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm alive.
We know all the curse words though, right?
Only if they have the rolling R in it. So like a cabrón. I know that one, sure. Pendejo, is that right? Or see, sometimes I'll just drop the R in where it doesn't belong because I'm zealous like that.
Pendejo, bro, that makes me flash back to middle school. A lot of people called me that. Or pendeja, that's actually more what they preferred. Which is a female pubic hair, if you guys want to get hip to that. I mean, so I wanted to talk a little...
Hold on. Wait, so you went and looked, because I didn't know that, but you went and looked it up, clearly.
Looked what up? No, but looked it up, bro. This is my emotional suffering when I was in 6th grade. Wow, apparently you weren't bullied by Mexicans, bro. I don't know what you did growing up, but
Arizona was tough on you, as I understand it. The Mexicans are a brutal bunch, and I'm going to caution you to beware when you're around more than 2 or 3 of us.
Well, I was going to say I'm in a weird position because, I like Cuban food, and I think it's good, but it's not very distinct, and I really, I've had Dominican food here, and I've had Spanish food and Puerto Rican food, I guess, technically, and it all kind of blurs together. It's really not too distinctive. And then growing up in Arizona, I'm like, well, no, Mexican food is clearly better. I mean, it's at least distinct. It's like, yeah, I know Mexican food when I see it. It tastes like something. Imagine that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I used to get offended when people would say that Mexican food was the same 5 ingredients reshuffled, I don't know if you've seen that meme or whatever it is.
Yeah, the best 5. The best fucking 5 in the world.
Hey, there's only 4 elements on Earth. We've bested Mother Nature with the 5th element. So, hey, step the fuck back.
Habanero? Habanero sauce? Are you joking me? 5 ingredients. You idiot. You simple-minded fool.
Hey, listen, not everybody is acquainted with the potency of the habanero, clearly, because when I just recently I asked for 3 habanero, the Instacart fella thought I wanted 3 pounds. Motherfucker brought back 72 habanero. I ate 1 and threw 70 fucking 1 away, bro. Anyways, wow. The habanero needs to be studied. It needs to be evangelized. It needs to be imbibed.
I'm sweating. I'm literally sweating just thinking about it.
It's a cologne. It's a mouthwash. So
yeah,
it's like you've seen that Dr. What is it? Dr. Bob's fucking 97 uses of this Trader Joe's liquid soap. Dr. Bronner. Dr. Bronner.
Yeah, I love Dr. Bronner, man. I love Dr. Bronner.
Wait, how many uses have you leveraged of Dr. Bronner? Don't tell me you brushed your teeth with that shit, bro.
Oh man, I think I'm at 1. I mean, unless you count washing different parts of my body, I'm pretty much a soap. soap is as soap does. I don't need to.
Yeah, okay. You're not polishing silverware, which I believe is one of the uses. Or you're not accelerating the growth of fungi or whatever the fuck this thing does. But nah. Yeah, bro, habanero, long live habanero.
It's great. I mean, I don't know. I love burritos. I think burrito is the ultimate food format. I guess one question I guess I'm interested in your take on is then we have the wrap, which is sort of the white person burrito. What separates a burrito from a wrap? I have some theories.
Sure. Well, I mean, first thing is zip code. So, the one and the same object will change identity, which really,
as it moves.
Yeah. So for like the Uber delivery person, it actually goes from burrito to wrap, in one route. Right. So you have to be careful there. What's your theory here?
I think rice and beans play a strong role. Your average wrap tends to really be more just a sandwich in a tortilla. And actually, I would also lean on that. The tortilla quality, I don't know what it is. I don't know. Big Wrap has there is a monopoly. People talk about Google and stuff. No, whatever company is behind the tortillas they use for wraps dominates single-handedly. They make 3 colors, not even flavors. They have named names for them. They're like, it's spinach, or like, I don't know what the orange one is called.
Yeah.
They're like, it's Chipotle flavor. And you're like, no, it's not. It's just an orange bland tortilla.
Worse yet, it's cold. No, that's the other problem I have with the wrap.
No good.
Okay, the mayonnaise, you're from Wisconsin, you're going to do what you're going to do, but
right.
Why refrigerate it, my G? Like,
do you have a favorite spot in LA for burritos?
Bro, I live in Los Angeles. There's probably 27 million Mexicans. I live in a town where we're predominantly Mexican. Yeah. And we have the worst Mexican food in the fucking area. I got to tell you, I do not have a favorite burrito place. No, this is tragic. How about this? Things are so dire here that I ordered flour tortillas from Kansas. I found, I was like, I needed fresh. Bro, I needed fresh flour tortillas. I didn't have a local option that satisfied me. I looked online for something to be delivered because I didn't want to get COVID while getting my tortillas. Right. And I had to go all the way to Kansas. Duck fat tortillas. They weren't worth the money.
They weren't worth it? Too expensive?
Too expensive, bro. When you're shipping your tortillas from fucking Kansas, you got to be a cartel kingpin or have a guy with a horse and not have to pay the post office, bro, because that shit is just too expensive.
Yeah, I think my roommate got that exact brand. I mean, look, I've settled on this brand called Mayan, which maybe I'm just falling for the branding. Like, Mayan, just like Mexico, brr. But the best like store-bought tortillas I would always get is from an Arizona chain. I don't know if they're in Cali. It's called Basha's. Now at Food City, they got a kind of whole variants. But they had the best tortillas. It's like a little buttery. They were so nice.
A good tortilla will take you a long way. It's almost like a magic carpet. Whatever you put on it, you're gonna go places with it. So find yourself a solid tortilla dealer. And you're in New York, so you're probably having, what's it like out there?
I mean, the Mexican food here, it's, you know, if I don't go in, right, if I really like adjust my mentality and I'm like, I'm eating food to the tune of Mexican food, you know, I'm going to see a cover band that's going to really like, they're going to put their own spin on it. If I think of it that way, I'm not mad.
Right.
But it just doesn't have, I don't even know what it is, because it's not the quality of the ingredients, because it's always like, you know, bougie hipster burrito. It doesn't matter where you go. It just does not taste like a Southwest burrito.
Who's making it?
It doesn't matter, man. It could be a hipster place. It could be I mean, that's really it. There's like hipster places, then there's like kind of dingy places. Oh, this is a real crime. I don't even know if have you heard of this shit? There's Chinese Mexican food here. And I don't mean like a clever fusion. I mean like I think it's just Chinese people making Mexican food and they put broccoli in their burritos.
Wow. Wow.
And they call it a burrito, right? Because I think you'd go, well, that's a wrap. That's not a burrito. What are you, crazy? They call it a burrito.
Listen, I'm saying wow. All the while, last night I ate a beef teriyaki white rice burrito made by Mexicans at a teriyaki burger shop in a strip mall next to a fucking gymnasium.
And was it good?
Yeah, bro. It's one of my jams, bro. For me, to be honest, there aren't any rules. And I suspect this theme is going to come up again in this episode. There aren't any rules going into the game, you know? Do you like it? Does it taste good? Run with it, you know? That's kind of my philosophy. You know, I suspect it has some limits, this approach to life, but I'm willing to run up against it. Whatever those limits are, I'm willing to run up against them. I don't want to go in with preconceived notions about what things ought to be.
Yeah, I love fusion food. I love all stuff like that. There's this Chinese Mexican places here in New York, and they're dingy joints, you know, like the local Chinese spot. And you know what? The Chinese food there is competent. Just, you know, don't get the burrito. But in Arizona, there's actually a chain. It's got a couple locations, and it's called Chino Bandito. And they dare to actually fuse Chinese and Mexican food, you know, like orange chicken enchiladas and just insane.
Wow.
And you know what? It wasn't the kind of place I could go to regularly because I remember it was like super heavy and super greasy, but it was interesting. I actually liked it. I'd go back.
Absolutely. You know, we know there are Chinese people in Mexico. They've been there for a long time. So of course you're going to get interesting food, even I'd imagine in those households, in the Chinese households in Mexico, you know what I mean?
It's true. And I feel like so much of it too is just like where the ingredients source and stuff like that. You know, I had a burrito in California, just like went to a random place, got a burrito. The avocados in this burrito blew my mind. I mean, they were the best avocado I've ever had. Just delicious.
Well, listen, there's a crime that's taking place all across burrito joints, all across America. And you know what? It's this shifting of the burden onto the consumer to actually, what do they call this? Add the fixins to your burrito. Like they have like the salsa bar.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
It's like I'm giving you the MVP, the minimally viable burrito, sir. You're gonna have, yes, I'm gonna charge you $11, but you're gonna have to do all the work. Step to the side while I take my next order. This is bullshit.
Wait, there's no onion. No, there's onions at our little bar. There's no onions in the okay. There's no hot sauce. No, you can put hot sauce. We have 5 different hot sauces with a ladle there. It's totally unsanitary and disgusting. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, when it's well done, and it rarely is, I can get down, because there are some places that have like a freaking buffet, and you're like, what's this hot sauce? And it's always like this, right? It's always like 7 of them are completely bland and indistinguishable. They're different colors. And then the 8th one is so hot, you're like crying.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and then of course you have the whole carrot, like it's in vinegar and like warm air for
Bro,
half
what
the
is
day.
that? I don't want that. Who likes this warm carrot? All right, well, I'm pretty sad because you're telling me you're in a burrito desert, and which is messed up because you're what? You're north of LA, right? Or are you south of San Francisco? I forget.
I'm in the San Gabriel Valley, east of downtown Los Angeles.
Well, you were trying to spin some kind of local pride on me, though, right? You were trying to tell me something about Chinatown. Isn't that right? What were you saying, that your Chinatown is the best?
Listen, it's not me who's saying it. It's the annals of history, and I'm just
Okay.
I'm just the mouthpiece. Listen, the Chinatown, America's biggest Chinatown, contemporary
Right.
Chinatown, is Monterey Park, California. Monterey Park, California is in the San Gabriel Valley, which is where I live. And while Los Angeles has a historic downtown Chinatown, that's
Right.
long like been non-Chinese. I mean, there are Chinese shops, but in terms of people who live there, non-Chinese. The majority of Chinese, both recent immigrants and second and third generation Chinese, are in the San Gabriel Valley and in Monterey Park. And we're big, we're bad, we're bold.
And I was a little offended when you told me this because, and I feel for you because I want you to be in Mexican food heaven. I'm like sad that you're not. But I happen to believe that New York is the Chinatown king, at least of the United States. Probably not against China. I'm going to go ahead and admit China probably has a better China. I don't know that they call it Chinatown in China. That would be weird. Every town is a Chinatown in China, which is one of the main reasons I want to move to China. But you made this claim, and bro, I want to let you have it. I do, but I looked it up here. Monterey Park, California. It's got 60,000 people, which is cute. Flushing, Queens. Okay, this is our second string Chinatown. This isn't even the main Chinatown in New York. This is the second Chinatown. 178,000 people. So I don't know where you're getting your information here, but let me tell you something. The dumplings in Flushing, Queens, you'll go crazy. You'll go crazy.
Listen, I was just going to tout. You've probably heard of Din Tai Fung, which is a dumpling house in Taiwan and in the San Gabriel Valley, again, in the San Gabriel Valley. And I was going to tout, the Chinese craftsmanship in the making of these dumplings. But when I visited repeatedly, Mexicans making the dumplings, bro. So I don't know what to tell you, bro. It's Chinese, it's Mexican, it's Chinese. I might have been conflating the numbers. I might have been counting some Mexican as Chinese, but you're going to have to forgive me.
Hey, look, at least we agree that Chinese food and Mexican food is some of the best food out there, people. And it's distinct. Enough with this whole Cuban shit. Enough. Dominican, Cuban, quit Spanish, quit acting like you're that distinct. You just it's Hispanic food. It really,
Bro,
that's what it really is.
Hot take, only Puerto Ricans like Puerto Rican food. You might want to edit that out, you might not, but that's my hot take.
I don't know. What is Puerto Rican food? That is all the same. It's all the same. I feel like Spanish food gets a little like bougier. They'll be like, oh, we got octopus, and they throw a couple things in. But like in terms of like kind of like spices and just like really interesting flavors, it really just doesn't get too crazy for me. Even Colombian food. See, now I'm gonna upset people. I don't feel like Colombian food is super distinct. Peruvian. The Peruvians throw down some food.
Peruvian smack.
Dude, it slaps. You know what? There was a girl in my town one time, and she goes, Mexican food isn't real cuisine. It's not real cuisine. It's just 5 ingredients. And it's like, there's only like, what, 7 notes in music.
There you go.
So
there's only three musketeers. There's only three musketeers.
like, what do you want? What do you want? How many does it take to make a cuisine? Give me a break. Calling you out, Caitlin.
Caitlin, you are the asshole.
There we go. Well, speaking of that, guys, we got a heck of an app. Carlos is publicly Mexican. Your handle is @BigBrownDad, which I enjoy.
Hey,
are you big?
6 foot, 227 pounds.
Oh shit!
Yeah, bro. I don't know if I have onset of type 2 just yet, but this Lenten season, I've vowed to give up cereal, and of course, I've already had 4 bowls since the start of the Lenten season.
What's your poison?
Oh, bro, I go Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Bro, I just bought a box. It's so good.
Hey, when I was a kid, the $5 price point seemed a little outrageous, but they could, and don't tell them this, but they could charge $11, $12, $13, and I might just go ahead and get that box.
I don't know that there is a price that I would. All right, this has turned into a food podcast, which frankly I'm ready to do one, guys. We talk a lot about cookies. I don't know if you're a cookie guy, Carlos. Well, let's do this damn thing. We got some Mexican related situations here. Our second story: AITA for only making white people food for a diversity food party. Very excited for this, guys. Carlos has a coffee company, and I told him to write an ad because I thought it would be funny. Here we go. Do you dread waking up? You should, because the world's sort of fucked up, but you can make it better. Yes, with 1 cup of delicious, premium, third-wave, ethically sourced, organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, keto coffee from Mestizo Coffee. Mestizo Coffee for people who mask their depression behind addictions. Go to Mestizo, Mestizo.coffee. But first, it's AITA for telling a girl that she's not Mexican. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I moved to the States a few years ago. One of my friends introduced me to this girl that was quote-unquote Mexican. I met her and introduced myself in Spanish and immediately realized she didn't speak Spanish, so I changed to English. While talking to her, I realized she called herself Mexican because her grandparents were Mexican and because she quote-unquote looks Mexican. I told her she has Mexican heritage and her race might be Hispanic, but she's not Mexican, at least not culturally speaking. She got offended immediately and said I didn't get to decide who's Mexican and who's not. I told her I agree, but neither did she, and asked her if she's ever been to Mexico, to which she got a little embarrassed because she hasn't. She then said I was being insensitive and racist, and I answered that if she ever were to go to Mexico, she would be considered a foreigner by any and every measure: language, clothing, customs, nationality, and that there was nothing wrong with not being Mexican. She tried to argue more, but I disengaged because I knew it wasn't going anywhere. Was I the asshole?
Lovely soul, this woman here. What's her name?
Well, her username, let's pull it up here, was the Mighty JD.
Well, that's fitting. JD, as you know, stands for Juris Doctorate, and there's a lot of robing. A lot of heavy robing going on here, you know what I mean? The gavel probably in her purse.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's an interesting question because, I don't speak Spanish. I definitely feel a little weird. And I've had people tell me, they go, you really should run with how you're Cuban more. It works better for showbiz. And, I'll tell people I'm Cuban. My parents are born in Cuba. But to me, I would feel false kind of leading with that. But I'll go there if we go there. But I do think it's whack to tell other people what they are. I think that is a line cross for me. I think that applies to anything. It's like, well, let them be. That's what they identify as. That's their identity. That's none of your business.
Right. I think she should have went first when she tried Spanish and the woman didn't respond in Spanish. She should have tried Nahuatl or Quiche, our indigenous language, because as you know, Mexico is home to hundreds of languages. So, why try the most recent one? I know French speakers. In Mexico. She should have went with French. Homegirl maybe is a little full of herself. What does she say? She's never been to Mexico. Her charge was that this woman who claimed to be Mexican had never been to Mexico. Well, if she lived in California, Nevada, Texas, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, she is technically standing in Mexico. Or was Mexico. I don't know how you want to slice the bread, but Mexico's bigger than she imagines and probably more diverse than she admits.
Those are really good points. Just like the U.S., like Mexico is a huge freaking there's over 100 million people in Mexico, right? It might even be 200. I know it's big.
Yeah, I don't know. But I will tell you this. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I grew up in a neighborhood that was 90% Mexican American or Mexican. And my lowest grade in college was in my Spanish class, where I admit after the fucking statute of limitations that I may have cheated on 1 or 2 tests. Now, to remedy this, I backpacked through Mexico after grad school to go and learn some Spanish. And to get to know Mexico because I don't know why, other than I thought it would be a chance to eat 5 different ingredients all across the continent.
In different orders.
So I will tell you that I wasn't immune from a similar charge, like, oh, you don't even speak Spanish, or you're Mexican, or like, there's a term for this. I don't know if you've ever heard the epithet pocho used, but it's what?
No.
Yeah, a pocho. It's a term that actually I just learned recently by reading this book on Mexican American intellectual history, that the term pocho was first used by Mexicans who fled the revolution, moved into states like Texas, and who still kind of identified as Mexican nationals abroad. And when they encountered Mexicans who were born in the U.S., Mexican Americans, they're like, these fools don't even speak Spanish right. And then they let their women tell them what to do. They're not real Mexicans. In the war, I bet they'd fight on behalf of the U.S. And they'd make songs, write literature, essays about these pochos, these folks who were disloyal to Mexico when it came down to it, and they weren't really Mexican. So as far back as 100 years ago, when there were these shifting identities and nationalities, while there were shifting identities tied to nationalities, the term pocho, emerged and is still used to describe people like me who don't speak Spanish, maybe never been to Mexico or whatever. So growing up, I heard that for sure.
That's kind of what she's really kind of saying, It's just like it's an attack on your identity, right? Very similarly. Right. Yeah. Echo Stellar 12 wrote YTA r/gatekeeping. That's kind of the concept of this. Whenever people like reject, they say, "Oh, well, only people who do X can be Y." Only a real Catholic hates themselves or whatever.
Right, and that starts from like a premise, and then leads to a conclusion, rather than gathering information that leads to a softer conclusion. It's like the difference between deductive and inductive reasoning, right? So even if she were to find 99 people, even if she were to look for 99 people who met her criteria, like nothing about that guarantees that the 100th would as well. And so her experience is too limited in the end to draw any conclusions about what's normative. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, it's ignorant, really. That's really what it is. She's making this, she's being super rigid. She's saying Mexicans are what I think Mexicans are, and it's like, well, you don't even know what Mexico is, because for all the reasons you gave. Like, there's tons of languages, so the Spanish is just recency. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, even if you said a normal, okay, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. She said, well, a normal Mexican is this. Then, okay, maybe you're saying you did some kind of statistical averaging and said, this is kind of what the normal average statistical Mexican, but that doesn't mean shit in the real world. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's a diverse range of experiences, and this chick is the asshole.
I think so. I don't think there's any question about that. I think there's some interesting kind of side notes to go on. I mean, I think it's cool that you were able to go to Mexico. My parents have always told me not to go to Cuba and that they wouldn't feel comfortable going. They feel we could be apprehended. So I think that's another kind of ignorant thing. So what? Everyone who's a refugee from a shitty country, oh, they're not really from that country. You're not really North Korean. Because you've never been back. Give me a break. My name is Kanya writes, YTA, I'm Sri Lankan. My parents are both Sri Lankan. I don't know my native language properly, Tamil, and I've never been to Sri Lanka in my life. You don't get to decide if someone can claim a culture they're born into based off your standards. I would be foreign because I've only truly understood Canadian culture all my life, but that doesn't make me not brown anymore. Culture policing is the worst. Don't do it.
Stop it. Yeah, there's also this weird conflation with nationality and ethnicity. So they're like, Mexicans are this, and they're like, are you talking about Mexico the nation? Because we know they're Chinese born Mexicans. Like, what are you saying exactly? Okay, not the nation. You're saying what? And then, when you start pressing down and asking for concrete definitions, then I think people are going to be a lot slower to say that this or that person belongs in or out. You know what I mean? Because people aren't always clear on what they mean. They just say shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's stereotyping in a way, right? It's like, oh, every Mexican speaks Spanish. And it's like, well, no, man, there's, like you said, it's just like, that's not that you're being, sometimes it's hateful, being reductive in a hateful way, but sometimes it's being reductive in an ignorant way. It's like, no, it's just not reality. That's just what you think it is.
Right. No, that's interesting, because I've always thought that stereotypes were just shortcuts, were like intellectual shortcuts. Like, if you don't have the time to actually reason through the scenario and address all, most of the data, then you're gonna take a mental shortcut. But like, shortcuts are cool, I guess, if you're in a hurry. But if you want to make like an informed, sober decision about something, don't use the shortcut, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so many stereotypes are born out of like hatred, but even when they're born of ignorance, they lead to that attitude where it's like, well, then you can't even see a person, right? Like, she can't even really. I love what you said. That is actually so perfect, because her ignorance of Mexico is actually shielding her from more ignorance. Because, like you put it, instead of being inductive and being like, okay, this is the evidence in front of me, this person identifies as Mexican, so therefore they are a Mexican. She's going, well, I think Mexicans are this way. I'm rejecting the information that this person is Mexican, and so I'm just going to remain stupid in my wrong view because I refuse to look at the evidence.
That's right. No, when you take that approach, when you take the evidence approach, it's slower, it's kinder, probably. It's like more gracious. It's like, yeah, I don't know, I might find a fucking Mexican who speaks Chinese only or whatever. I might find a Mexican. You will. It's a big country, my G. You're gonna fucking find it. So. Well,
I think we agree here. I don't think there's any question. AITA for telling a girl that she's not Mexican. We agree. You are the asshole. Up next, we got AITA for only making white people food for a diversity party. This happened back in 2018. I was studying in the U.S. for a semester. Something made me think back on this situation. So basically, our department, which had tons of foreign students, had a party, and we were asked to cook some food for it to celebrate our diversity. I'm from the Czech Republic, so I made my best efforts to get the suitable ingredients, and I cooked up small portions of our traditional food. I also made some other dishes I knew: Slovakian, Polish, Austrian, Hungarian, because these are often made back home. I did tiny portions because our food does tend to be kind of heavy, so I ended up bringing many trays with small plates. It was a lot because one regular portion got split up into about 5 tiny ones, and most of the recipes are intended to feed a 4-member family. At the food party, we milled about, people tried the food, asked about it. I had small labels and tiny flags that I painted. That is thorough, painted tiny flags. This is a party. I thought it was going great, and I went around tasting all kinds of dishes I never had. For me, Mexican food is very exotic, so I was happy to try some authentic dishes.
What is this yellow cheese?
Wait, so how many ingredients are there? Oh, okay, 5. Interesting. One of my classmates, went over to my tables as I was munching on some tamales, and she asked about the food I made. So I showed her and told her what's what. That she told me that she doesn't want to insult me, but if it really thinks it's appropriate to only bring white food to a diversity party. So I told her I brought examples of Slavic, Germanic, and Hungarian cuisine. And even for Slavic cuisine, I included 3 countries, so I think I fulfilled the diversity requirement. She then told me that's not the point. It was still a bunch of plain white people food. That I should have made food by other ethnicities because majority of the students there were white. The majority of them had never tasted Czech or Slovak food. She told me I was being insensitive, but she understood that as a European from a white country, I could never understand. Okay. She was the only one to approach me with this, but I saw her talking to others and pointing out, and I feel like fewer people came to try the food. So now it made me think, was I really being insensitive? I am European. My country is homogenous, and the majority of foreigners we have are also white Slavs. We have a big Vietnamese community, but I don't know their dishes. So was I being insensitive? It was not my intention. I just thought that food being Czech, Polish was being diverse. It didn't even cross my mind that all the nations are white. I mean, this feels like almost the reverse thing of what we're talking about. It's like, I don't know. It's like she's offended. She's almost offended that the diversity doesn't fit like a certain stereotype of what diversity is. It's like,
yeah, I ran this really fun thought experiment. I first imagined the student who was speaking up and was so offended. So I first imagined her as an African-American student, and I said, okay, I went to school with that girl. And then I imagined the Mexican-American student who would raise this issue. I was like, yeah, I went to school with that girl. And then I imagined the white girl, and I was like, I really went to school with that girl. So I'm going dollars to donuts. This is a white student who was most offended by this travesty, supposed travesty.
Oh, I think so for sure. I think it's funny that you made it out to be a girl, no matter what. But we're not gonna profile you, but we might throw a YTA. We might throw a YTA your way. I mean, I guess my take on this is like, first of all, I don't know. I guess I'm having mixed feelings. It's like, look, it's not like there's no racism in Europe. That's laughable. But admittedly, some of these countries are very homogenous. They're also very small countries, and I don't know. I just don't think this is a necessary call out. Like, it's just, I don't know. It'd be like if you made a bunch of food in America and then you made only like hot dogs, hamburgers, like you'd have to really stretch to not include other cultures. But I feel like this guy did stretch. He stretched multiple nations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to listen, this doesn't mean couldn't have issue with what she brought, because if you've ever tasted any of the food from these countries, they taste like shit, but it's not racist shit. It's just unpalatable shit. You know what I'm saying?
I agree that it's bland. I mean, I think it's relatively, it's not that it's bland. I think actually some Polish food can really slap. It's just that I think it all probably blurs together a fair amount. It's like, it's just that there's only subtle differences. Like I've had Polish food and I've had Russian food, countries that are not that close. They're both Eastern Europe, but it's like, yeah, they're very similar.
Well, you know what? The true test of a dish at these parties, of course, is will people eat it and go back for seconds. I'm going to guess if there was Mexican food being offered at this party, which it sounds like there was, her shit wasn't going to be touched anyways. So do we really need to bring up this issue? I don't think so.
It was gone. Nobody wants the stuffed cabbage, all right? We're going to have the tacos. Digital Con writes, NTA, she sounds rude. Food in Europe differs from one place to another, and to disregard it just because it's quote-unquote white people food is something only an uneducated person would do. It's still diversity. That seems fair to me. It also feels like a tall order. I mean, this person I feel like they kind of went all out. They made 5 freaking cuisines. There's tamales at the party. Like, I guess if it was I'd be weirded out if I went to a diverse food party and all the food there was white people food. Yeah, I'd be like, well, what's going on? What kind of party is this? But there were tamales at the party. Moderately Prosperous writes, a lot of my African friends are also curious to know what black culture, etc. is, considering that Africa is one of the most diverse continents. Sometimes Americans can be very navel-gazing. I'm never comfortable with that phrase. What is that? That means looking at your own belly button?
Hold on. I'm trying to think of a situation where I'm actually in a position to look at my own belly button, and I don't think it's a PG-13 conversation.
Yeah.
So. What?
I can think of the situation that you're thinking of, and as a podcaster and frequent tweeter, I think that's definitely what I'm doing a lot of the time.
Navel gazing,
something like that.
I think it's a navel glazing. But the
Yeah, I mean, I think playing this black-white game is frankly a little black and white, if I may say, people, if I may say. It's like, there's nuance here. I don't think it's racist to make a variety of dishes that happen to be from countries that are homogenous. I mean, is this really the fight we're gonna pick? There's black people in jail for smoking pot, and you're mad at a person for making Slavic food. Like that's where I think some of this goes. It really does get into, speaking of, it's intellectual masturbation. It's like, well, what do you really, you're not making the world better for anyone. You're just like making someone uncomfortable.
I got to take issue with Moderately Prosperous pulling, when these conversations about race come up, people do a lot of weird things. And one weird thing I see people do is what Moderately Prosperous here did. She interjects like, a lot of my African friends, a lot of my African friends are also curious to know what Black culture is. Consider African, like, what, huh? Like, don't like this, what?
I think I understand what they're saying, right? Because if you're from Africa, then you wouldn't understand Black culture. The term would make you kind of like, well, yeah, I'm Black, but, I'm from the Sudan. What does that have in common with Dr. Dre? You know what I mean? Because Black culture, because you're right, because it's an American thing. Like, this is like our little American conversation, and the rest of the world, I don't think quite fits in the same way that we do, because it is. I mean, this is a pretty, I think this country is particularly racist. That's my perception, but I know other countries own slaves and stuff, so it's not like we're the only ones, but...
No, shout out Britain. Shout out.
I mean, look, we're the country that's imprisoning the most people by, a lot per capita, so, that's where all this issue usually goes for me. I'm just, clearly and it's disproportionately Black people, so that's where I always kind of well, yeah, that is the unique part of the American problem.
Right.
Anyway, we're getting out of scope here, people. I think we agree. AITA for only making white people food for a diversity food party. I think we agree. Not the asshole. And this woman who had to make a whole thing about it is. There's no reason to go there. It's kind of a funny observation, like a roasty thing, but to be like about it.
Yeah, Karen, grab your backpack and go read at the library.
AITA for being angry that my boyfriend wants to spend Christmas with his best friend instead of me and my family, especially when I'm getting racist undertones to his reasoning. Here we go. I should have known something fishy was going to happen. When we first started dating, he would make comments like, quote, "You're not like other Mexicans," unquote. And when I got accepted to mine and his dream college, he said it was because of affirmative action he didn't get in. Oof. Whenever I ask if he wants Mexican food, he says he's not feeling, quote unquote, nachos and burritos. Wow. This guy is fucking spicy. His family is also always praising how, quote unquote, eloquent I am. They have potlucks and I love cooking a bunch of different food, but they always seem jokingly shocked when I don't just bring, quote unquote, rice and beans. His mom also recently said the winter overcast is doing great things for my skin. Yikes. What kind of comment is that to make? This family sucks. Well, I invited him to spend Christmas Eve dinner with my family and told him he would be making tamales and pozole. He told me today he couldn't make it to my family's dinner because his best friend had invited him to a Christmas Eve dinner with their family. He said he wants to be with his best friend to experience quote-unquote traditional Christmas foods since he won't be able to make it home to his parents this year because of COVID. I told him this was messed up, but he said it wasn't and that I wasn't respecting his culture and traditions. I argued that he was putting mine down, but he said I was just projecting what I was doing to him. What do I even do or proceed from here? This kind of hurt a lot because my family and my family's cooking means a lot to me. We've been together for 3 years and just renewed our lease. IDK, maybe I'm overreacting and reading far too into it, but I'm just worried he's gaslighting me or something. And I've never been good at confrontation. Would really appreciate your advice and insight.
Well, listen, before I lean into this boyfriend, I do want to grant him one or two things. He says he's not feeling the nachos and burritos. Honestly, like nachos once every month is a little. I've had my share of nachos. You know what I'm saying? So, in fairness to the dude, if they're serving up nachos at Christmas time, I'm not sure I want to be there either.
Well, but they're not. It's pozole, baby. And I don't even know. I ran into pozole very seldom. And actually by a white family when I was a kid. They made it. I loved it. I thought it was so great. I don't even remember. It's kind of like noodles, right? What is pozole?
No, pozole is not noodles. Pozole is menudo's prettier sister. Menudo, of course, has like a pig intestine and innards and fucking spicy broth. And
I love it. I love that shit.
It's solid. The pozole though is a little cleaner insofar as it doesn't have a hoof. But you will get the beans. You'll get some hominy or corn, and you'll get like a nice soupy broth. And it does hit. And if they're serving pozole and not nachos, bro, you need to run. You're right. You need to run your ass over there.
This looks delicious. No, I don't think I have had this. I don't know what I'm confusing with. This looks incredible. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a tough situation. Obviously, see, the thing about it is I think OP is really trying to make us hate this guy and the family, but because I don't think this is about the fact that, or it needs to be about the fact of like this war of traditions and it's his tradition versus her tradition. I think the fact that she's kind of building this case against the family means like she does feel rejected and hurt in this way. I think it might be a lot to ask. I don't know the whole situation, but it might be a lot to ask to like have him really like jump in head first and have a radically different Christmas, but she needs to address these little slights.
Yeah, and of course, if it's a Mexican Christmas, it runs 17 days. So I think she should also take into consideration that, they can split the time, Maybe it's American nachos with the Kraft cheese one weekend for Christmas, and then the following Christmas weekend, it's the Mexican nachos.
Where I'm getting, I guess, lost is, all right, so we got all these comments like, you're not like other Mexicans. To me, it's like, damn, I could not, like, if somebody said, like, you're not like other Cubans to me, as little as a Cuban as I identify, I would immediately be like, what does that even mean, man? That's, like, not okay. And they're like, well, all the other Cubans are Republican. I'd be like, oh, shit, oh, yeah, no, I agree. No, I'm not like other Cubans. But if they said that with some stank, I would definitely reach in and be like, yo, what's that all about, man? That's hateful. Like, you're allowed to hate aspects of Cubans, just not any aspect, Yeah,
you have some justified hate.
Right. Like, and I mean, look, I think she's picking up on a pattern with this guy because some of these comments are just unchecked. Like, I've heard this one before. I don't know if this resonates with you. I mean, like I said, I can pass for white, so I definitely don't think I never get comments like this. But what do you think about this one? His family is always praising how eloquent I am. I guess, have you ever gotten something like that?
I have. It's another one of those silly ones.
I think part of this conversation too, because we are in America, is like the white passing aspect, because, and I think that's another reason why I don't really like kind of like open up or like right away be like, oh, I'm Hispanic or I'm super Cuban, because, I'm white passing. And so I don't think I'm the victim of any kind of like these snarky comments or like these kind of racial like underpinnings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I grew up, again, in a predominantly Mexican American neighborhood. I didn't really see white people on a day-to-day basis other than teachers. So I never, of course, then identified as white, but, there's a spectrum, what I'm saying, when it comes to kind of Mexican identity, Mexican American identity, and you're going to have the people who cling harder to kind of like an ethnic Mexican identity or a national Mexican identity. And some of us who just experience themselves as brown, which is kind of why I chose to use the term brown, in both as my rap name when I used to rap as Bookworm Brown, and then now when I write at my blog, Big Brown Dad, it really talks about my experience as brown. Now, I will tell you, just to kind of bring it back to China, I did get a chance to visit China to eat food on a grant, and that was the first time as an adult someone called me white, and I was flabbergasted. I was taken aback, but it just demonstrated to me that our categories here in the U.S. aren't the categories people use abroad. Especially in China.
A Chinese person called you white? Nah,
it wasn't a Chinese person, but it was a expat. It was an American expat who assumed I was white, which was also interesting because I guess I was outside of like an ethnic context. So had they seen me on the campus of UCLA, like I wouldn't have been white, but like outside of other brown people, for me, it was weird. And I kind of resented that in a weird way, but I've always carried it with me. But it was also instructive. Again, people don't see the same. So
this person was taking a shot at you, though. It was kind of said in a negative way. Or, what was
not
the meaning?
I felt it was because they were a person they were a Chinese American studying abroad in China. So as a person of color, I took it as an offense that another person of color called me white. I was like, oh, word, like, all right. I knew, of course, that of like Chinese folks would see me as American, and they might conflate that with white, and they don't have an idea of what a Mexican American is. I'm sure all that was happening too. But with this kind of someone in English who looked at me and was familiar with American culture said, you're white. It was interesting. But you're saying you pass as white. Do you see yourself as white?
Well, I mean, yes, I think so. I mean, I don't think there's any contradiction in saying white Hispanic, and I think I think it's a lot more difficult, and there is a lot more prejudice, and then obviously racism when you are brown. I think the actual color of your skin does, have a huge impact. I mean, that's my perception. I don't feel like I've really been a victim to racism ever, or even prejudice, just because people think I'm Jewish more than anything. I think that's just because I'm in New York, and I guess I have curly hair, but yeah, I don't feel like. Yeah, and I do comedy, but I don't feel like I've been a victim to anti-Semitism, so I'm basically just like cloaked. Nobody can see me or acknowledge. I've somehow avoided really any of this, but that's a really interesting insight, though, that you would go to a different country and someone would call you white like that. I don't know. For me, like, I always just try, and I fail sometimes. It's like, why you gotta label other people? Just like let them be and let them express who they are, and let them have it. Like, what is that your business? G Grape writes, NTA, those aren't undertones. That's just straight racism. Don't fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. It's unfortunate you renewed the lease. Maybe you could eke out a few more years, but I don't think this is really how you want the rest of your life going. Find someone who respects you, respects the things that are important to you, and respects your culture. I think that really kind of just sums it up. It really does come back to respect. It's just like, if someone says there's something, like, that's them, that's their identity. It could be gender, it could be race, could be anything. Like, you shouldn't be judging it and trying to lump it into a category, or like our other OP did, and just saying it's not valid. It's just like, why? Who are you? What authority are you?
Yeah, get out of this relationship. If you've been in a relationship or had an experience where somebody was totally into you, and that feeling versus this feeling, compare those two. Like, imagine your man should want to learn how to make tamales with your grandmother, or your man should, what is that experience like? Fuck this, convince him to come over shit. Like, that's already the wrong train on the wrong track, going in the wrong direction. Get off the train.
The other aspect for me is, just a lack of openness. I think this guy is definitely saying things that qualify for like racist, but also just being not open to, well, you don't want to try a tamale? Like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you curious? Like, I could come for someone just for those reasons as well, which is the source of ignorance. It's a lack of curiosity, a lack of wondering, and that comes, I think, from ego. Think, oh, I know what's best. This is the way it's done. This is the way we do it. It's like, where's your sense of wonder, man? Like, come on. Have a tamale. It's incredible. You fool.
And we wouldn't even tell him about their sweet tamales, you know what I'm saying? Split his whole wig.
Dude, what's a sweet tamale? I don't think I've had a sweet tamale.
What? Bro, they have strawberry tamales with
what?
Yes, they work in the masas as a shade of red. It's not like a sweet thing. It's more like the taste is like a Nesquik strawberry milk, which I haven't had in 37 years. But it's like if it's done right, it has a nice corn. It has like corn strawberry. Then you'll get the tamales that will have raisins in it, which are sweet in that way. There are varieties of sweet tamales, bro.
I gotta try these things. That said, I think we agree wholeheartedly. AITA for being angry that my boyfriend wants to spend Christmas with his best friend instead of me and my family. I think we agree. Not the asshole and the boyfriend and his family are. A bunch of ignorant folks.
And they're missing out.
They're missing out. Well, hey, man, it's been so great having you guys. You can follow Carlos on Twitter at Big Brown Dad. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, you know how we do it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, come to New York, man. We'll have Chinese food in the real Chinatown, all right?
I'm with it. Hey, I use chopsticks. You better too, mofo.
Oh, I gotta learn it. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.